My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubow. And, you know, if you've ever been curious about turning a vacation home into a thriving real estate venture, today, my guest, Jenn Pereira, she's going to have to correct me on it. I have a realtor who has that last name, and I should be better at pronouncing it, but she's here to spill her secrets on short-term success and midterm strategies for the whole STR, MTR space. Jenn, welcome to the show, and apologies on the last name. Can you give it to the people at home in the correct way, please?
Yeah, thanks, Bryce, and no worries on the last name. It is Pereira, so think of a pear tree, Pereira.
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, that the midterm and the short-term space is really been in fluctuation. You know, the short-term rentals were they came onto the real estate horizon. Then they were kind of static for a while. There's a good portion, like maybe 5 years or maybe as much as 10 years, where it was like, okay, everyone's aware that Airbnb exists. And the cities weren't really getting onto it. But then it seems like as more and more units and density and competition, they started legislating it a little bit more, permitting it a little bit more, expecting more out of the actual people doing it, which created this new kind of MTR space that people are pivoting away to. And also, as we were talking before the show, the providing STR within multi-units. So it's like a combination of like long terms and maybe midterms and short terms all in the same building. But before we really jump all the way down on that, is that what you started with, which is short-term rentals, or did you start with the, you know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad book and buy a single family home and rent that out? Where did you get started?
That's actually really funny you say that, because Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one of those really pivotal books for me, and actually was one of my son's Christmas gifts this year. But no, the short-term rentals wasn't where we kind of started. This is kind of in my family. My dad was really into property. Actually, it was kind of because of me that he got into rentals. When I moved out of home, I couldn't afford my own house at the time. So my dad decided I wasn't paying anybody else's rent. He bought a second property. I rented one of the units from him, and then he rented the rest out. So from there, he kind of scaled up to a few more properties. So it was kind of watching him that got me into this. But how I got into STRs, we started vacationing out in Fort Erie. A friend of ours had a mobile home in a resort down in Sherkston, and we started staying there a few times and loved the life, and decided we wanted to kind of invest in one of our own. And when we started to look into it, you know, it kind of made sense to rent it out when we're not there. And when we started to run the numbers, it was like, well, we can vacation for free. You know, and we're giving other people that opportunity to come stay and enjoy all the amenities that we're enjoying, and the scenery, and having memories with their family. So, hey, here's a thing here. And then my husband and I started to really think about it, and well, we can just keep multiplying this. We can keep doing this in other areas. But then even outside of vacations, the interest rates started rising. We were one of those 1 point something% mortgage rates people. And then our mortgage renewed recently, and it was like it doubled. And we started to think, like, as we were getting closer to renewal, we're like, well, I want a bigger house if I'm going to pay more. And a bigger house will give us that opportunity to then ride that wave of the high interest rates and this extra that we're paying out of our pocket. We can put a basement apartment, we can start to Airbnb. So win-win for me, and I'm a big person on win-wins. We get a bigger home, we got a pool out of it, right?
Yeah.
And we can accommodate short-term and mid-term rentals within our basement apartment.
Yeah. So it's, you know, how, because that's the one thing is that people, they're either in on the idea, or they don't want people like hanging out in their basement every weekend or all the time. They either want tenants or they don't. But the more competitive the I wouldn't even use the word competitive. The harder it is to find places to live, period, the more that the density seems to be the direction, because people just simply can't afford to carry their own house in some cases, where they're just like, well,
Yeah.
now my interest rate is so high that I have to develop my basement to let someone in because I can't afford, or I can barely afford my new mortgage payment for at least the next, like, let's say 2 or 3 year fixed term. We're stuck paying too much, and our payments pretty much doubled. So um, when you look at it that way, there's going to be a lot more suites coming up, but also the jurisdiction and the permitting for these units has also become more stringent. So at the same time, what I'm seeing and hearing is people pivoting actually into more of a midterm for their other units. Like, I want someone in there for a few weeks or a couple of months, but I don't want like a long-term tenant. And I can't really get a short-term tenant because it's just not happening, or they have to renovate to such a degree that it's got to look like a beach house or something to get a short-term tenant. So um, what are you seeing out there, someone who's in the space and seeing the actual transactions happening? Because this is just me standing out going, hey, look at what I'm seeing, what people are telling me, but what's going on your side?
Well, because we network a lot with people within that multifamily space,
Mm-hmm.
and even just a little bit outside of that too, like just other renters that we know of, these interest rates, they're really starting to take a toll on people. And
Yeah.
you're right, people are starting to consider. Um, and I think it's a great opportunity for them to ride that wave, because here's the thing, long-term tenants, they come in,
Mm-hmm.
they bring all their stuff, they're damaging, they're settling,
Yeah.
there's a bit of wear and tear. Um, and you're not caught in that landlord tenancy. So like you were saying, sometimes it's hard to kind of to accept that someone's living in your basement. Well, with short term,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have those landlord tendencies that you have to face. But the other thing that we're hearing is people have these extra units that they have space within their basement, a basement they don't use, and they're like, how do I do this? And they're struggling to do it. They
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to make that extra income, and they see opportunity within STR because again, you're not stuck like you are with a
Mm-hmm.
long-term tenant, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but we are seeing more and more people wanting to leverage the extra space in their garages, building lofts. Bill one, what is it? Bill 13, where you can now add a second dwelling onto your property, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just not interest rates; it's the cost of living's going up, right? And
Yeah.
people love their homes; they want to be able to give their family a life,
Mm-hmm.
and they're starting to ask the questions. How can I benefit from the extra space so that I can continue my lifestyle, um, while giving someone a home? And midterm rentals, like if you start to think about, um, people who come to Canada, new immigrants, they need somewhere to stay until they find that permanent spot. And that's something actually we're looking at within our businesses. How can we help the community? I'm Portuguese. So, I'm drawn obviously to my community. So how can I help maybe new couples coming into Canada settle
Mm-hmm.
until they find their first home? So there's almost also that heartwarming feeling. It's not even just about paying your bills, keeping your roof over your head, but you're also
Mm-hmm.
helping someone in certain cases.
Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking about was, if you don't like it, you can just turn it off and take a break.
Exactly, right?
You're just like,
Exactly.
you're not stuck in like a 2 year lease with someone. It's just like, okay, this next person's moving out in summertime, and we're just, maybe we'll just use it ourselves for a few months. And then in the
Yeah,
fall, when everyone's back at school, we'll throw someone back in the basement and only go 10
exactly.
months of 12.
It's like you have control. And this is, I think, why I started to lean more towards SDRs instead of long-term rentals, was seeing kind of the things that my dad would go through and some of the cleanups me and my husband had to do for him. And, like it was just not only damage, but just the headaches and people who didn't want to pay. And after they left, he had to rent it. Like there was just so much, and he didn't have control. And the other thing was, I was like, wow, you've got these properties, you've got these assets that you can't even use. Yeah, you've got money, you've got equity you can buy, I guess, your next thing, but do you actually, can you go in, can you live in it? And you can't. And with an STR, with a midterm, like you said, I can turn it off. If I have one by a beach, I want to spend the summer there, guess what? I'm not renting it out for the summer. I'm going to go there, right? So you get to use your asset. Like to me, that's one of the biggest benefits.
So with, with the business of short-term rentals and real estate investing, what do you think your secret sauce is? What comes easy to you that other people might find difficult to do?
Customer centricity, hands down. You've got to take care of your guests. I try to put, like, it's for me. If I was staying somewhere, what would I want? What would I want for my children? What would make my life easy? When we started with our vacation property, it gets sandy. How do I help parents who have come back with shovels and sand and towels and all these children who are now cranky from the beach? Like, how do I make this easy for them? How do I make it, oh, this was such a good vacation, right? So really thinking about your customers, your guests, putting yourself in their shoes and really trying to meet their needs. Listen to your guests, do those surveys, get feedback, listen to that feedback, and acting on that feedback, because if your customers aren't happy, they're not coming back, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want bad reviews, and not even the reviews, but I don't know, I want someone to go home and have really enjoyed their vacation just like we do.
Yeah. And apparently from what I've garnered from other hosts is that the reviews definitely can hurt your positioning on the service. If you aren't, especially on the customer service side, like, yeah, it wasn't so nice. Okay. But the host was not, blah, blah, blah. And then that's going to be a real challenge. So you really do have to be on top of it. It's essentially a hotel that you're running, a one-off kind of Airbnb. That's the name, right? They coined it. I wonder what other names they had before they stuck on that one, but that's the one, right? So it's really just a B&B, and the service that goes along with that is pretty extensive. So,
well, and Airbnb has, they've got kind of a standard, and you should meet up. You should actually, to me, I think we should exceed that standard, right? Because maybe that's how you then set yourself apart from the B&B. We're goodness stay properties, right? So, and that's why we named it. Like when we say for goodness sake, when you're stressed, for us, it's goodness stay. You're not stressed. It's all good.
There you go. So where do you want to go in the next 12 months? What do you want the future of your business to look like this year?
Well, if I go back to our earlier question of, what are we hearing right now with everything that's happening in the market and in the real estate landscape, we're trying to really get into those multifamily units. We're seeing and hearing that a lot of landlords or owners, property owners, they see the benefit of STRs, MTRs. They don't know how to leverage them. But the biggest challenge for them, and what kind of is a barrier for them to do it, is that when they try to refinance, the banks aren't qualifying them, or at least considering or taking using that SGR income to qualify them for their refi. So what we do is we work with those owners, with those landlords, so that we can acquire those units for them, work something out with them so that they can then still have that balance within their multifamily spaces, where they have a little bit of their long-term, midterm, and short-term, by us assisting them getting into that short-term space. So right now, what we're working with multifamily owners to try and start leveraging and maximizing and increasing their cash flow within their units by SGRs and MTRs. And we're also hoping to acquire our first multifamily unit.
Nice, nice. So, with everything that you've accomplished so far in real estate, what would you say your biggest obstacle is these days?
Oh, good question. I want to say sometimes it's people, I guess, right? Sometimes when you come across a new challenge, a new
Mm-hmm.
barrier, it can be really tough to figure it out on your own. So you need the people, and
Mm-hmm.
it's navigating who's out there, what are my resources in terms of people resources, and who can I trust, right? Because sometimes there are some people out there that just want to make a quick buck. So we've joined a network, Wealth Genius,
Mm-hmm.
where now that barrier is kind of starting to really disappear because we've become part of a network that has the honest, the right people, and they're just so great in connecting one another. So it
Mm-hmm.
has been a struggle, but we're on we're on a better path now.
Yeah, that's what I've heard of so far from people in that community, is that there's some nice access to different resources as well as people, and uh, some some opportunities for capital and things of that nature. So definitely, if you're struggling to find growth in real estate, look for a group to join, because
Yeah, very important.
you can go, what is it? You can go fast alone, but far together. So if you're looking to go far, find some people to get together with, even if it's just your local real estate meetup. Just do something, get out of your bubble. Whatever you're doing is, um, you're only going to do, you can't like expand your horizons when you're sitting around by yourself. I don't feel that way anyway. So
Yeah.
what are you doing to like fund your deals now?
To fund our deals, we have a network of individuals that we stay close with. We've built relationships where, once we're working on something, we flag it out there, and then,
Hmm.
we see who wants to work with us, who's the best fit, right?
Yeah.
Depends on the deal. It's got to be the right structure, the right people to make it work. Yes, we
Hmm.
want to get far together, but it's got to be a fit. So yeah, we just leverage our community, we leverage our network, keep everybody updated on the things that we are doing, so that they're aware and so that they know what opportunities are out there from us.
Okay. And what are you doing to make sure people are aware of all the different things that you're doing, like networking events or newsletters or social media? What would you say has been working for you?
So social media for sure, and the networking events, the whole relationship building, right? Because you can post all day long. Sometimes you become just kind of a face. So
Hmm.
I really like the in person. So the networking events, events period, right? I love to party. That's a
Hmm.
little secret about me. So we try to attend as many fun things as we can, talk about our business so people can see our passion,
Hmm.
and then word of mouth, right? People who have worked with us, they continue to pass that along, and then people reach out to us. So social media, relationship building, networking events, yeah, just get out and meet people, and show them what you love to do.
Nice. And would you say that you're find the deal and then the money person, or do you prefer to have the capital lined up and then go looking for deals?
Yeah, again, depends on the deal. Like if the capital comes first and hey, go find me the deal, then I'm looking for the deal. But if I
Hmm.
found something, then I'm looking for the capital, right?
Yeah.
So I think it really, it's one of those chicken and egg things, right? Again,
Which came first? Yeah.
if I find something that's a great opportunity, you know, then I'm looking for the money. And then vice
Hmm.
versa. If the money happens to come, hey, can you find me a good deal? Then I'm looking for the deal, right?
So when you're presenting your deal to a possible investor, how do you go about doing that?
After I sweat.
Yeah. After you have like the self-talk in the mirror, and
Right. And the high fives.
maybe change your outfit one time, and or if you're a guy, may change your tie 5 times, and then go out
um,
and do it, But let's talk about the doing of it. What have you found to be particularly successful in your approach so far?
um, Again, I'm going to go back to that win-win, right? How is this deal a win-win? We can run through numbers, absolutely, because the numbers really tell the story. But where's the benefits? Where's the benefit for you? Where's the benefit for me? How is this going to work? I really like my prospective capital funders, I guess I'm going to call them, to really see the whole story, see the whole picture. Why was I excited about the opportunity, right? What is it that is going to make this work? Where are we going in the future with this? What are our pros and cons, right? So I go through the pros and cons. I love honesty. I love transparency. I think that's super important, especially when we're talking about other people's money. You got to be transparent. What am I doing with it? How's it going to work? And where do you benefit, right? I think everybody wants to know what's in it for them as well, right? That's the most important part. That's why they're here. But yeah, lining out those numbers. Where's the win-win here? Because I only take win-win scenarios. It has to work for everybody. Yeah.
So for people to invest significant amounts of capital with you, they need to know and like and ultimately trust you. So what are some things that you found to be effective for building up that like, know, trust relationship?
Always being honest, being an open book, answer those questions, because the one thing I never want is to be caught being dishonest. Never. I don't like to hide anything, because let's get real, like as much as there can be great golden nuggets out there, at the end of the day, sometimes there's challenges. So you got to be really upfront. So if a mistake was made, I am the first one to raise my hand and make that call and listen, this just went down, because that way people know that I've got their backs. So, it looks great on paper. There's a win-win scenario. The numbers look fantastic, but if something hits the fan, they know I've got their back, right? So always being honest, being accountable, and just updates. I am very big on updates, right? A weekly, working with that person, with that key stakeholder, and how often do you want to be updated, right? So just keeping them in the know, and open book, always being available whenever they have questions.
Yeah, that's super important. The transparency of it all. So if people want to reach out, they want to find out more and connect with you, what should they do?
They can always email us at goodnessstay@gmail.com. They can also find me on Instagram, Jenn Pereira. It's Jen with 2 N's. And it's at Jenn P. Cascia, Cachia.
Nice. So yeah, I really appreciate you stopping by and shedding some light on that STR and the MTR space. And yeah, I really appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, Bryce. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.